Welcome to What the Heck's, your source for Warhammer Underworlds and under 30 festering boils that really aren't that bad, and they'll probably go away if you just ignore them. It's fine. I'm your host, Davey, and I'm on my own except for one really stinky guest here I have, and that's Anas.
Yep.
How are you, sir?
Stinky. I'm all good, thank you. I've been really looking forward to talking with you on this show here.
I'm glad to have you on. I was remembering some of the conversations we've had in the past over Discord, and you have had on occasion. I think there was one exchange where the last time I started playing Wurmspat, I sent you a log file and you had lots of advice. It was really, really valuable. And so, folks, if you haven't figured out, we're going to be talking about the Wurmspat, and specifically, Anas took them to an event in Copenhagen, which was a World Championship Qualifier. Is that correct? What was the name of that event?
It's Copenhagen Clash. It was the first time it was run here in Copenhagen. It was actually just 5 minutes away from me, so very easy. And it was run by two of my local players from our local group, Thomas and Jonas. You might know David Jonas from LVO, I think. He went over there and plays really well.
Yeah, I do, actually. Was he... Am I correct? Well, I guess we did two kind of separate little events, but was he running the Stalkers?
The Wraith Creepers?
Or the Wraith Creepers. I always want to call them Stalkers, even though that's what they're... So the Wraith Creepers, yeah. He was the awesome story of the event, because I think he was 17, somebody dropped, and then he got into the top 16 cut and then just stormed his way into the top 4, I believe. So quite the story.
That's the guy, yeah. And he and another of our locals decided to try to get a tournament going here. We have a small group of 15 players-ish now that plays about once a month here in Copenhagen. And some of them have wanted to try to make a bigger event to get some outside people joining us. And they did it, and it was fun.
That's excellent. We're going to talk about that quite a bit more. Before we do, we have a couple housekeeping things to take care of. We're recording on the 11th of June. For context, it's actually been a bit of a lull. I know that AOS 4th edition is on its way out, and so I think that's making it so we're not hearing all that much about what's coming up for us, but that's fine because we have lots of things to sort out. And as Anas has demonstrated here, there's still so much to explore with the pairings and what's available and what's possible right now. We'd like to do community shout-outs, and as the guest, I'm going to throw it to you. Do you have anything you'd like to shout out?
Yeah, I do, actually. First, I wanted to shout out Jonas and Thomas for running the event, and I just did, so that's easy. Then I want to shout out you, Davey, and Phil and the other guys. I'm pretty sure we're going to come back to it, but I was actually out of Underworlds for a bit, and when my son was born, in Denmark, we were lucky to have a long paternity leave, so I had a lot of time walking around with a sleeping kid in a stroller in the Danish winter, and I decided to listen to some podcast.
All right.
And I did, and that actually really got me fired up for the game again. And I sent your podcast and Path to Glory and Max Bernstein's old podcast, sent some links to my friend, and he was in the same situation, actually, walking around with his newborn kid.
Yeah.
And he listened to all the podcasts, and that really got us going again. And that was where we went from having Underworlds as a secondary casual filler game to diving in. So I just wanted to shout you guys out.
I appreciate that. We like to be able to be there. I've had that for me in the past, where some other podcast has kept my toes in on something that I haven't had time for. So I'm glad to hear that we could be that. So
yeah, you're welcome.
I am going to shout out a couple things. There is the Critical Focus channel. We just mentioned them actually last episode for their 11 rules you are likely to overlook. One of the hosts, I believe, was at the tournament with you. Is that correct?
Yeah, Mets, I think. Yeah.
Yep. So they've got a video recap of his experience at the tournament. And so if you want another angle, that's a great place to check it out. We are going to be talking about Anas's experience at this tournament and what he brought. But if you want a deep dive on the Wurmspat, there's a couple ways you can go about it. There is a love letter on Spent to Glory. That's an amazing series that Fish Mode does, where passionate writers tell people why they should try a particular warband. At the time of this recording, it is not quite out yet, so I haven't seen it myself. But I can rest assured, based on the other 6 I've that his love letters that he's published, it's going to be good stuff.
It's coming, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not as long as Lethenham's my area deep dive, but
that's
not,
good. Who has an entire weekend to read?
but not far behind. So, so maybe you should.
No, there was Lethenham. That was one of the. I mean, I love the series, and that was just an amazing article there. So if it's anything, if it's half as good as that, it'll be great. And then I think you are doing a deck guide for BattleMallet to talk about this pairing. Is that correct?
BattleMallet reached out to me and asked for the deck for their amazing deck library, and of course I wanted to share it there. And Jared also wanted a guide to they have a cool system to easily get a sense of the deck with the most top 3 objectives, points, and upgrades, and some thoughts behind overall strategy and board choice and so on. So I just have to find the time, but it's coming.
Sure.
Time of this release, it might be out.
Well, yeah, this is still probably 10 days from release between when we record here and when it drops. So anything could change in between there. But which is all to say that if you heard this and you want to know more, or you don't have to rewind to a particular point, well, some of these other outlets are going to be some great resources to kind of double down on what we're talking here, and perhaps a different angle on them as well. There's a couple things from in-house that we need to mention. If you want to have a chance to qualify for Worlds and you want to come hang out with a lot of cool people in Madison, August the 17th, we have our Madtown Throwdown, and we have a World Ticket Qualifier for that. We would love to see you there. And if there's anything we can do to help you make that happen, let us know. If you're on the fence for some reason, tell me how I can shove you to the right side of that fence, because we'd be happy to do that. The other thing is I am recording just by myself as the host. My other podcast hosts have jobs that happen during the day, and I do not, which means that I can interview our European guests a little more easily. But also Skylar is taking his very long lunch break, apparently, and he's got another entry in What the Decks. I think this will make his 14th episode. Today he's recording Rheinblock Relics and De Cunning Crew pairing, which is a pretty intriguing combo.
Yeah, that should work pretty well.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to coming back and giving that a listen afterwards. But unless you have anything else, I think we're going to jump into the main topic here.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I should say, if people are American and they are reading your profile handle, your Discord handle, it will look like Anders, but as you told me, that's not how your name is pronounced over.
No, we do it very weirdly over here. So no softy.
Yeah. But you may, even if you don't recognize how we've been saying it, that you probably know them from any realm where they might have been talking Wurmspat. But we talked a little bit about it. But why don't you give a quick recap? How did you get into gaming, and how did you get into Underworlds recently? We know how you got back into it, and but how did you get started?
I've been collecting, playing with, painting Warhammer since I was a kid. I remember coming to my grandparents' apartment, and my uncle, he didn't live there anymore, but his old Warhammer from when he was a kid was there. Yeah, this is like 3rd edition Warhammer Fantasy, maybe 4th edition back in the day. And I just remember looking at all these models and playing with them as a little kid, and then I started buying a few or getting for birthdays, and over the years I've played some, I got out of it again, I just painted, played some more. And then in the last probably 10 years, we started again playing for real, so to speak, with a bunch of friends. So we played Warhammer Fantasy Battle a lot. We played Mordheim, if you know that system.
I've got some great Mordheim stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same for me. Fantastic game. The game itself, like the individual game, might be really great or really weird or actually quite boring. But the game system, the campaign system is fantastic. So if you have the time to play a Link campaign, it's really, really good. And then we didn't have the time for that. So I was always interested in, cool game systems, like the rules, the mechanics. And it was about that time that Underworlds came out, and my friend bought the box. He brought it for one of our Mordheim getaway weekends where we drank too much and smoked too much and played too much. And I didn't want to play Underworlds because I thought Mordheim is all about, immersion and art and vibes and 3D buildings in several levels. And Underworlds was like a board game with hexes and cards, and that was very, very weird for me. And like it broke the immersion, so to speak, or didn't have any immersion for me. So I didn't actually want to try it. And then when it got clear to us that we couldn't play Mordheim anymore, we couldn't play Warhammer Fantasy Battle that take 5 hours. I was like, okay, I'm hearing good stuff about the rule system. Let me give it a try. And I got an intro game at our friendly local game store, and it was just really good. This was late Shadespire, probably around Chosen Axis. And coincidentally, Chosen Axis was my first warband. And then we played Underworlds quite casually as a side game. Some of my friends didn't really like the deck building aspect, and got out of it and got back into it again. As I said, a little bit with Beastgrave, and then when Diachasm dropped, I really started to like understand the deck building process a bit more, and listen to a lot of the podcast and saw like the depth of the game more, and since then I've played it quite a lot. So we and at the same time, here in Copenhagen, back before COVID, there was a big community, or rather large community at least, that I wasn't a part of because it was a casual game for me. I wanted to hang out with my friends more than playing with random people for the sake of the game. And then COVID came and the community disappeared. And then about the same time that I was looking into getting back into it, a few guys wanted to restart it, and we don't have the numbers they did before, but I think we're about 10, 12 on a normal day, and it's once a month we play together.
Well, that's a healthy number. I don't want to get too far afield, but let me ask this. You mentioned how deck building was an obstacle for some of your friends at the time. How that is an aspect where I think it's been a barrier for a lot of people. How did the advent of Nemesis as a format, as a solid entry into how to play, how did that impact your local scene, would you say?
It's I mean, I still haven't won over my old Warhammer board gaming buddies into Underworlds yet, except for one guy I wanted to shout out when we talk about the tournament some more. But I can see that for our local group, Nemesis has been great. It's much easier, as you all know, much easier to get into, much easier to like get an overview for the newer players or the more casual players. And we started, I'm a long-time championship player. I really like championship format. Then we started to do, Nemesis when we have intro nights. Then we started to do, every other month we play Nemesis, every other month we play championship. And now we just started to go, full. It's Nemesis from now on. That's the thing people want to play. And with the full rival stick, what do you call it? Circle,
right. The pool is
the pool is
filled out
now, and which was one of my main criticisms was that, okay, if you have a warband that has the tool to use a limited pool, that's fine. But if you don't, then you can't play that warband, or you can only play like in one style. And I thought a lot about with that argument about Wurmspat because I could actually run Wurmspat with a fairly good success rate in Championship, but I couldn't in Nemesis. But now I can. I still don't have a lot of like wiggle room to try out different, in my opinion at least. But other people might prove me wrong. Hopefully they will. But now I can at least play them. So I mean that's pretty good. Yeah.
Well, at the risk of stating the obvious, would I be correct in saying that Wurmspat is your favorite warband, or are they one of several?
They're definitely my favorite warband.
Okay, well then let's walk that back. Why Wurmspat? How did Wurmspat become that favorite warband? And then help us understand a little bit about what it is that made you say that I'm sticking with these guys, even for something that has the worlds on the line.
Yeah. Well. First of all, I like chaos. I like the chaos in the old world, not the new old world, but the old world. And I brought that with me. I played chaos in Mordheim. I played chaos in Underworlds. My first warband was Chosen Axis, but I made them chaos dwarfs.
Oh, did you really?
I did. I play, Dread Pageant. One of my top favorites, Garrick's Reavers. Plague Pack. I have converted versions of Ephelem, Drum. I like chaos, and my old chaos army in Warhammer Fantasy Battle was Nurgle. I really like the aesthetic, the grittiness, the grim darkness, of course. And I like the slow and steady. Even my chaos army back in the day was infantry heavy, walking slowly up the battlefield and getting into like grindy combats. It was not a chaos army full of chariots and knights. So Wurmspat is kind of the same here. I like how you want to get stuck in. You have really great stats for combat, at least for Wurmspat, when you unlock them, when you inspire. But your enemy might run away. Your enemy might outscore you while you go towards them. You can't hide back. You can play passive. I mean, you can wait them out. You can try to time your charges and so on, but you can't not engage at some point. Even if they come to you, you have to you can't run away. You have to engage them. But it's not. I can't necessarily reach you turn one either. Warhammer Fantasy Battle or here in Wurmspat. So I have you have a chance to shoot me or to run away or to outscore me or to countercharge me. So it's to me, playing them, they don't feel as oppressive as some fast aggro can do if you get the lucky dice rolls. So I like you have to go the distance. You have to stick it out. And the enemy have you're the best at what you do, but it's quite a narrow niche you have. So they have a lot of room to work around you, so to speak.
So we've talked about that with some of these war bands that are maybe not as heavily taken. The frequent comparison is Eyes of the Nine, where when you can find a way for that deck to work, it's where you find what is the thing that they do that no one else does, or no one else does as well as they do it. And for something like Eyes, it's the blue horror often. The blue horror. Other people have level 2 casters that can go ham, but nobody's got a model that can die but not die, and that's if you can find a way to leverage that. So what is it about the Wurmspat that what is it the Wurmspat do in your opinion that make it like this is why I would take them, this is what they do? You said they're very narrow niche, but what is it that they do that other people don't do?
They don't care that you punch them. I mean they do, and you can kill them. I'm frequently tabled, but they, compared to all the other warbands out there, I think they're obviously the toughest one in close combat, at least when they're inspired, which is a very big part of your game plan to become inspired. So what you can do is you can fight people and not die. And that means that a lot of the teams nowadays, but also historically, but a lot of the teams, they want to score glory by killing you and getting their kill surges or their kill end phases, or faction end phases, and you can deny that. You
especially significant in Nemesis, where you're much more likely to have to lean on at least one or two kill surges in whatever build you're doing.
Yeah. Exactly. And there still is a lot of popular aggro warbands, and okay, I know that the new decks, Wurmspat and of course the Hungarian Parasite, they have some aggro stuff, both of them. But before that, Breakneck Slaughter was very popular, even for warbands that didn't have a lot of kill surges necessarily, or wanted to do stuff while they did Breakneck Slaughter stuff. But there are in phases for killing, in phases for being close to me, and so on. So that's a big. It's not all the warbands that needs to kill, but a lot of them do, and a lot of them really needs it, and you can kind of deny that in the right circumstances. Yeah.
Well, while you're mentioning decks, so not to give it away, but you paired with Rhineworm's Bite. Were there any other pairings you considered? And if so, what were those? And if not, what is it that said, okay, I Rhineworm's Bite, that's the pairing. This is what is making it that I can take these guys. Talk about how you came to that pairing, I suppose.
Yeah. No other pairings were considered.
I agree.
Yeah. Let's take a step back and quickly look at what Wurmspat needs, and they need to inspire to unlock their unkillable defensive stats. How do they inspire? They inspire by wounding or killing 3 enemy fighters. So traditionally, that means you want pinks to easily unlock those inspires. Rhineworm's Bite has pinks. You want any scoreable objectives, because Wurmspat has one of the worst faction objective decks in the game. I brought 3 one glory objectives. One of them is a search, and that search I never scored once in the entire tournament. And the others are not good one glory end phases, because you can't really score them in turn 1, or maybe around 1. Maybe you can, but often you can't. So you need something that kind of meshes with the game plan of grinding it out, of hitting multiple fighters and going in and boxing people in. And Rhineworm's Bite give them those objectives. The search pack is still quite bad, because you can't bring any playable searches from your own deck, your own faction deck, but there's one good and a handful that is kind of scoreable, or like circumstantial, that in some board states, in some circumstances, you will score them and some you won't, and you chuck them along, and then you go punch the enemy in the face instead. So Rhineworm's Bite is the only not warband, the only faction, not faction deck either, the only rivals deck that gives them what they want. Really, I played them mostly in Championship, of course, but I had Toxic Terrace can kind of work for them in Nemesis, but it's not great, and especially not with like the ceiling is for like the standard you need to compete with is constantly rising, because now there's even more decks to choose from. For the rest of the field, the rest of the warbands. Toxic Terrace is kind of awkward, because you need those keywords to trigger off each other. But you get that important +1 damage, of course, if you can find the other cards to unlock it. I've tried them with Tooth and Claw. I've tried them with Breakneck Slaughter. I tried them even with White Curve Thralls. And they're all kind of, fun for test games, but they don't really work. They lack something. Some of them lack everything, basically. I think you could probably do something with Force of Frost. Of course, that has just been nerfed, rightfully so. Not a big magic guy, so I didn't really want to go into it. I'm not a big fan of whatever's too popular, and Force of Frost was, at least for a time, they're really, really popular, so I didn't really want to go with that. And of course, there's also a strategic or tactical reason, it hinges on your most important or most vulnerable fighter, not most important fighter. That was a mistake on my part. On the most vulnerable fighter, and if she dies, you need some of the other cards that turn the other people into wizards. So I never actually tried Force of Frost with them.
Okay. Well, the deck you did settle on, there's a interesting symmetry there where in your objectives, you have 3 faction objectives. In your gambits, you have 3 faction gambits, and your upgrades, you have 3 faction upgrades.
Yeah.
So 9 of your 32 cards are from in faction. And as you've already mentioned with the objectives, one of them ended up being an unscorable surge throughout the game.
Yeah.
We'll leave some of the deeper dive into the deck for some of those outlets we really like to point people to, like the deck guide and such. But over on BattleMallet, but give me the broad strokes of the deck. Like what is your? We talk about sometimes we talk about macro versus micro decisions, and I can say that I think like micro decisions is what is the best way to make this activation happen. What is the most efficient activation I can do right now? But the macro is, what am I trying to do overall? Like what? And so with this deck, what is your overall game plan, would you say?
Yeah. The game plan is very simple. I'm a simple man. I'm not a big brain guy.
That's for Zinch,
I don't sell. I'm halfway through listening to your Deck Forge episode, and you specifically mentioned the mask deck, and you're like, oh, you can do so many crazy things. And when I look at the mask deck for Championship, I'm saying, oh, there is a reroll defense upgrade. That's what I want from that. That's the entire thing I want, because I'm a simple man. So what I want to do is not die and punch people in the face.
Yeah.
And I need pings to not die, and I need my inspired stats to punch people in the face. So I need pings again. So I got a few of the pings. They're not that great, actually. I mean, some of them are really crazy in the right circumstance, but they're not good for my purpose of inspiring quickly. They're not reliable, so to speak, except for one. So I need the pings there, and I need the don't die stuff, which is inured to hardship that lets you heal. It's the cards that ignores ping damage. Is it Boots of Warding? Yeah. Tough Enough is fantastic for Wurmspat, of course. It ignores 1 point of damage, unless that point of damage would kill you. And that meshes really well with the innate damage reduction ability. Say I have, you hit me with damage 2, I roll 1 shield that negates the damage down to 1, and then I ignore it with Tough Enough. So it's really, really fantastic. And I need the objectives, of course, and they have Wurmspat actually have 4 decent 2 glory objectives, which is rare for Wurmspat. And a lot of them, again, are kind of circumstantial. They're easy for the enemy to block, even either if they know what they do, or if the board state just kind of happens to block it. So it's not automatic to score these cards, but they actually let me score 2 glory interfaces, which is something that's quite novel for one.
Refreshing, one might say.
Yeah.
How much of your game plan? Everyone, whenever they hear Wurmspat, they think immediately about pings, but there's this secondary thing of domains. How much of the deck cares about what's happening with domains, and does that feel like a reliable portion of the deck?
I was lucky enough to get 4 practice games with Wurmspat before I played in the tournament, and I started out without the domains, and it didn't work. And then I put some of the domains back in, and some of the cards that trigger off of them, and it still didn't work. I lost all my practice games, so I didn't expect to do anything well here at the tournament, but I kept the domain things in. You get a search, which is what's the name of it? Is it let me see here, Ruinous Aftermath,
Aftermath, yeah.
you get a couple of great upgrades.
Mm-hmm.
Up for a fight is really good for your main fighter, Septimus.
Mm-hmm.
His biggest weakness is his lack of accuracy.
Yeah, but if he gets up to a 3 smash range 2 inspire 3 damage attack, well, now you're doing work, you know?
Yeah, he can remove entire warbands by himself if they haven't killed him until he inspires. Then he will do it for you. And I had like an avalanche, which removes or discards, mover charge tokens when you discard a domain card. And it was kind of strange how it actually played out. And then I have, I think, 3 or 4 domains, and the card that lets you pick a domain back up again.
Yeah, I think I see 4 domains, 3 of which persist, and then 1 that can pick them back up. Yeah.
And actually, the search was easily scored. Not necessarily, when I drew it. But then if I would often keep it for the later round, and then I would score it normally all the time.
Yeah.
And the cards themselves, one is a pure text card, like it doesn't do anything for you. And the other, and that is unstable footing. Like you don't get anything from that. And Here It Comes is cool because it persists for 2 rounds. Basically,
Sure.
And I once it managed to hit one fighter, one enemy fighter, but it's a text card in practice.
In the games that I've played, I've seen it go off once, and in that game, it hit one of my fighters and 2 of the enemy fighters, and I was playing against it. So
I mean, you can do. Actually, you can do stuff with it because you have it. It gives you time. It won't hit you at immediately. So you have time to get your can't be dealt damage by pings cards out. And the way the rules work is you can't pick an empty territory. So often they will end up picking a territory with your fighters in, of course, but some of them maybe. And you have a good chance of getting your can't be ping cards out.
Well, and I think I've often discounted that card just because of on its face. But I think one of the things you mentioned is how long it persists is pretty important because it makes up for a fight. This accuracy bonus lasts longer. Yeah. It gives you something that if you drew it early, it'll hang around long enough that you can trigger Ruinous Aftermath. Like there's...
it's a text card that works. Yeah. Actually, I like it more than unstable footing, and it's it's a pressure card for the opponent. They have to consider it. Maybe they won't, and it might hit them, or if they know what they're doing, they will consider it, and that might get them to split up. And like influence their movement or positioning that way. But it's in essence, it's a text card. You pay to unlock Ruinous Aftermath and the good upgrades. But the upgrades are also kind of like an Avalanche was really clutch in one game, the final, but it was not reliably, useful. So there is an argument to be made to not go into the domains, and because there are still, even though Wurmspat cards aren't great, I mean, you can get something like Can't Be Pushed in an upgrade, instead, or a reroll defense for Fecula, which is she's the most vulnerable of your fighters, or the least protected of your fighters, so a reroll defense is great for her, and if she dies, you can salvage it. So there's an argument to be made to go that way. I didn't, and sometimes I wish I did, and sometimes it worked out for me. So either way, it could go.
The only other card I wanted to mention, and maybe we've already touched on it, but this is a warband that in the past, if you can find healing, is often a really big deal because of their damage reduction. Yeah. And then lately, healing has particularly become limited to fighters that are not large, the healing cards. And you are kind of the ideal warband for that because you are sitting at that break point between normal and large fighters, and but also reduce damage. So you effectively are walking around with, you can consider it 5 or 5.5 wounds, and so the ability to heal it comes up big, and that's in your hardship. Did that pay off well for you?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the best upgrades in the deck, together with Tough Enough. It's really, really great to not die, and each time you heal 1 wound, it's you heal 2 basically, because it lets you stay in the fight and roll more defense dice, and they will negate further wounds and so on. And so that's a really, really, really good upgrade for them, and it also helps with then one of your 2 glory end phases, Never Punished.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Score this in an end phase if there are fewer friendly fighters that have 1 or more wound counters than there are enemy fighters that have one or more wound counters. So that it's like an extra thing there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I heard you mention that you had all of 4 practice games before going to this. Based on that practice, was there what were you going in thinking? Here are the matchups that I am very confident in. Here are the matchups that I am very worried about. Or were there any of those that existed? Where there was.
I was still not confident because I lost basically. I won 1, but we found out that I made a rules mistake and we played through it, so I shouldn't have won. But so I lost all my practice game basically. But all of them were bad matchups for me. So it really gave me something to think about. It really made me sharpen my round 0 decisions, my board choices, and so on. And basically the thing is, Wurmspat likes to fight in the middle, but what they don't like is basically everything else. I mean, that doesn't mean they can't win against it, and it doesn't mean they don't have game against them. But before Wurmspat Inspired, my fighters have total 12 wounds, no more than 2 damage, 1 block each. Of course, that block can reduce damage, but there's a 1/3 chance to reduce damage on an attack. So that means you have basically the same stats as Sandire's Truthseekers, but without damage 3 from the get-go, like Dora's, without the bird, and without usable objectives. So that means early game I'm afraid of fast aggro. Yeah, and there's a lot of fast aggro. And my glory ceiling is low. My glory ceiling is actually decent with this deck, 16, but I don't score a lot of glory. I ditch a lot of cards. So anything that can outscore me a lot or score a lot can outscore me. So that's all the whole objectives, horde stuff. Like I would really not looking forward to going up against a Polka Guard with this deck. And then I'm slow. And if you play passive and can ping me more than I can ping you, and a lot of the Thrice Roll Discord, they have 3 great faction pinks. I don't have any faction pinks, so I only have the pinks in the deck.
Yeah.
So they can outpassive me and score while they do it, while I walk up the field with the movement 3.
There are faction pings, but they're just so awful that nobody would ever take them.
I mean, they're not there. I mean, you don't want them. Yeah. So basically what I'm saying is, of all the 3, main archetypes, aggro, and whole objectives and passive, I don't like playing any of them.
Sounds like a recipe for success.
Yes, exactly. So I lost all my practice game, and I don't want to play any of the archetypes in the game. So
yeah.
No, but in reality, of course, it's something else. I was lucky enough. The practice games was against Threshold Discord, and it was against Siren's Razors, which can do the same thing. They can outpassive me. So that made me really think about the choices, because I had a lot of practice against aggro, against Brawl in the Middle, against hold objectives, but not with this deck, not with the Wurmspat. This was where I played them for a couple of years now, so I know the other stuff. But I was most afraid probably of Sirenized Razors, because they can really, really mess with me on the long board. And I know that for a fact. In my practice games, I had 2 practice games by coincidence against Cyanide Razors with Wurmspat, and that was not on the long board, and I still lost horribly. So I thought, okay, I don't have any chance. But as we shall see, I did. Spoiler alert.
I mean, when you talk about that, like some of the advantages they have is that they can sit back. There's some passive scores there, and the fact that they're pinging means that they're kind of circumventing one of your signature abilities, which is that damage reduction. You know, if they are dealing 1 damage at a time, they don't care that you could reduce 2 damage down to 1. They're like, that's not what I'm doing anyway, so I'm just doing 1 at a time. I would guess that's part of what made that feel like a particularly scary matchup.
Yeah, they have a laser beam. I don't.
Yeah. Let's not put too fine a point on it. All right. So you head the 5 minutes over to the venue. Yes.
Yeah.
And how many folks are there for this?
We had 26 players.
That's great.
Yeah, that was really great. I think there was about 30 signed up, and we had some people drop. And one of our locals dropped out after 3 games. So, okay. But 26 to start, and it was there were probably 6, 7, 8 guys from my local group. Of course, we had the 2 from my local group who ran the tournament. And then we had several people coming over from Sweden. And we had a fantastic guy, Padre, and his 2 sons who played in the tournament. And I think his wife as well, for moral support. But the 3 guys were playing in the tournament were from Poland. So he brought I played him, and I played his eldest son. So his sons were 10 and 14, and they played in the tournament. And, in English, not the native language. So it's really fantastic. And they did really well. His 14-year-old son took 4th place, 3rd place, sorry.
Oh,
and a fantastic player at 14. I mean, he's going to, if he keeps up, he's going to go places, yeah.
Look out. So you have showed up there, 26 players. You've lost all 4 of your practice games, or won one, but realized that you shouldn't have. What did you feel that your goals were going in?
Middle. Maybe play against people from outside of my group. Normally, I don't really play on Vassal. My practice games were on Vassal because I really wanted to just try the Rhineworms bite deck. I hadn't tried it, but I have limited hobby time, and I'd rather paint and convert models and play video games, even though it's not a video game. I'm gonna reconsider now because I had some really pleasant Vassal games, but normally I play with the guys from my group. That's it. So I just wanted to play with some new guys and show them hopefully a good time here in our local scene, and see where my teammates, my locals, ended up. That's it.
I mean, lacking a better place to mention it, because you mentioned your appreciation for painting, for converting. I'm looking. Your Wurmspat are all converted. If I had to try to describe them to somebody, I would say, like, what if John Blanche did the Wurmspat? Like they are super gnarly, scary, and very cool.
That's high praise. Thank you. I really like. That's also one of the things I like with Underworlds, of course, as everyone else. Like, you get to like paint different stuff.
Yeah. It's a great way to just do these little self-contained projects. But on to the event itself. So how many rounds did it end up being for these 26 players?
It was 5 rounds, so one day event, and each round was best of 2, which I'm used to playing best of 1, and I thought it worked really, really well. I think I don't have much experience with best of 3, which of course is the normal and the standard tournament format. But I really like that I get to play one more guy, or maybe even 2 more guys than most one-day event with best of 3.
I think there's a fair number of our listeners who will not be totally familiar with what best of 2 entails. Could you give us like a quick rundown of what that means?
Yeah. So there's no tiebreakers for the individual game. So if we go 1-1, it's a draw, even though you won by glory difference. So a loss gives you 0 points, a draw gives you 1 point, and a win gives you 2 points. So because it's easier to draw in best of 2 than best of 3, of course. So the organizers felt that there shouldn't be too big of a difference. Like winning gives you, normally winning would give you 3 tournament points, but drawing is so much easier. So in this format, so winning your fight, winning both games gave you 2 tournament points, and then the glory difference, you still recorded that, and that was used as a tiebreaker for the tournament ranking, but not winning the individual matches.
I see.
If that makes sense, yes.
All right. And so then you had 5 rounds. And so let's watch through. We try not to do a blow by blow because it's a lot to try to remember for one person. But what I'd like you to do, if you could tell us what you played against and give us the core, like what was your takeaway or what was a highlight moment from each of those rounds, and starting with that first.
First, I want to say I had some incredible luck in the first 3 games. Luck is always a factor in Underworlds. It's always there, and you have luck of the dice, luck of the draw. I had some crazy dice. I still think I played well, but dice kind of dice, and that wasn't in my favor here. So first game I played Joachim from Sweden. He played the Headsman's Curse. I never played against him before. Of course, I've read out about them and never played against them. And he paired them with Tooth and Claw. So I knew he wanted to come forward. And I, did what I do best, which is not die at all and kill all of his fighters. So I won both of those games fairly big.
It does sound like a frightening matchup, given that the wielder can get up to some pretty high damage for that first swing.
Yeah, I think Joachim was a great player. I think he ended up 7th, but he used to play a lot more back in the day, and now he's more casual. So I think he that Headsman's was still kind of new to him, and of course when you have Tooth and Claw, you just want to go charging in. You have, I think both headsmen have a faction objective, and of course Tooth and Claw has one for everyone having charge tokens or being savage. Yeah. So I think he just kind of went for it early, and I punished that. And of course, yes, you can get up to a high damage, but I can reduce damage and
right.
And maybe if I there might be some place just to stand there and put on the tokens, the plus damage tokens by the sharpener. But then if you do that for several actions to get up to at high enough damage that I can't reduce it down to save my life, then I'm doing stuff why you do that. So that was just brawl in the middle, kill them while they ran into me. But crazy dice, a lot of crits on my side.
Okay, well, starting off with a win that launches you into the second round, what happens there?
I meet Headsman's Curse again. My second ever.
You're much older and wiser with this matchup now.
I know. This was Patry, the Polish guy, great guy who brought his kids. I thought, okay, he's gonna know what he's doing, because you're traveling from Poland to Denmark and bringing your kids. You probably want to, you're probably playing a lot if you want to bring them along for a trip. And he brought them with Hungering Parasite. And the first game was again crazy luck on my side, and I demolished him. He was more. I thought I played a little bit with Parasite, with and against. I thought he would be more aggressive, because you have to go in and stand on objectives and so on in the opponent's territory. In the first game, he stayed back, so I had a slow start. That's quite common for me, especially with this deck. I think the first match ended 14-4 in my favor. I think he had 3 glory after the first round. I had 0, and I go in and then I start, racking up the kills, racking up.
Wow, yeah.
But I also had good luck here. A lot of crits. and I killed all his fighters, and I don't think I lost anyone. And it also showed him he was to his credit, he's a good player, and he could see that I had an objective that says if all my enemy's fighters are in a single territory, it's 2 glory for me. So in the second game, I think it was a bit rattled, but I also think, okay, I need to spread out. I can't just stay back because I will give my opponent passive glory. So he went into me and started to chop me down. And the second game was much closer, and I won that 9-8. Fun or like risky thing that happened there was it was really close. I won by 1 glory, and in the last round, I had the never punished objective in hand that we mentioned before, which is that more enemy fighters are wounded. And the blood soaked ice, each enemy fighter is wounded or out of action. And I was there, but then he healed his wielder just before the last activation, I think, or maybe the second last activation.
Yeah.
And I made I was in a position. He was just running. He was running away with the wielder. He didn't want to go for the kill. He wanted to save him. He didn't know I had that objective. But I think I had a push to get into charge range and a push with charge with Gulgotch, who is quite accurate.
Yeah.
And I gave him 2 wounds in the last activation, and he was like, "Why did you do that? Why didn't you charge for one of the smaller guys?" I'm like, "Because I had this," and then I won by 1. And he was like,
wow!
Oh! So that was rough. Yeah,
that's a nice dramatic finish.
Yeah,
that's
that
cool.
was down to the wire. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't count the number of times where I've been looking at what my opponent's doing and thought like, well, that doesn't make any sense at all. And then once the end phase hits, I'm like, nope, it makes plenty of sense. I just see it, you know. So that's 2 wins on to round 3. And what did you face there? It wasn't Headsman's again, was it?
No, luckily, okay. But it was another Ghosties, another Ghosty team. It was Padra's son, Alec. Or Alexander, his 14-year-old son, who had won his first 2 games or matches, and he played the Wraith Creepers with Rhino Relics.
Ooh,
yeah, that was a pairing that I didn't expect. But it makes sense, you know. We mentioned Jonas before playing Wraith Creepers in LVO, and he used to run them with the Fortress, Fearsome Fortress. So I think Rhino Relics is almost a better version of that, so it did make sense. I played quite a bit against Wraith Creepers, so I know that war went fairly well, but I only played once actually against Relics, Rhymelock Relics. I think so. So I still had to kind of suss out. I knew the big score. He had to go into my territory for the supremacy. I'm not even sure if he brought it. I don't think he did. And I knew that I just couldn't let him stand on objectives if at all possible. And the first game was very close, and he played really, really great. And the surges with Creepers, the Rhymelock surges, where you have, stand on objective and have an upgrade, and they can push on freely. They have their own easy surges to get the seed glory rolling, charge through a friendly fighter or whatever, charge with an enemy fighter.
Supported attack,
yeah, stuff like that. Easy stuff. Yeah. But I managed to just swing it in the end to a 12-11 victory. I think he got kind of rattled a bit, Alec. It was a bit of luck. It was a bit of nice play on my part, but he played, incredibly well. But I had some luck in the end there. And then the next game, just stupid dice again. I mean, he didn't get in to do anything. I just critted everything. I still think we can come back to this later if you want to talk about like what to do against rhyme worms. And people weren't. I had 3 things going for me here. I had some crazy dice. People were not used to play against rhyme worms and Wurmspat, and people were not used to playing against Wurmspat. So they didn't really know how to counter it enough. And even after game one, and he saw puncturing ice shards, which is the crazy card in the deck that really influences how you play objectives. It influences what board you choose, where you position. And even after seeing that, he still chose a board with a lot of hazard hexes on. And so that's just because he isn't used to seeing this pairing or this card, I guess. And I don't blame him. I mean, you're stressed in the middle of a tournament. But I saw that several times. People would not react to this. I mean, it's one card out of many. Maybe they don't really focus on that especially, but it's one of the cards that let me go off. So the second game ended 10-2 in my favor. There was no much to do. But after that, my after winning 3 matches on dice, my luck ran out, and I had to win it the old-fashioned way.
Well, so you're at 3 wins. You've only got 2 more rounds, but you're already over 500 for the round for the tournament. How are you feeling heading into round 4?
I'm feeling good. There are a couple warbands I'm worried about in the top third, but my goal was to play against new people and have fun, and so far I played against 3 new people and I had a lot of fun. I mean, they probably didn't all the times when I rolled 5 crits in a row, but no, we had some great games, and the people were very nice to play against, and both I and especially them made some really good moves. It was great playing against good players. I mean, all of these guys ended up in the top half at least, and Joachim, my first opponent, ended in 7th. Alec, I just played against, ended in 3rd. I mean, they're good players, and it was even though I had some luck on my side, I also had some great games with mind games and really had to sit and think. So I already my goal was fulfilled. I had some great games, great opponents, new opponents. So I was taking it kind of easy, not being hit by nerves so far.
Well, excellent. So you are launching into round 4. You don't yet know that your amazing run of crits and luck is about to abandon you. But what do you face?
Then I play Bastian, who is one of our locals or semi-locals. Semi-locals. He played Dominatans with the seismic shock. And he longboarded me, and I had some prepared, boards I wanted to use if I suspected that I might be longboarded, and I didn't suspect it because I was kind of a bit tired, maybe. So I didn't pick a fantastic board for this, but I still, I can deploy as close to him as I can. He stands back, and stands on token and casts spells, and just gets a crazy lead, all the cast 4 spells, burn out your hand, play your hand out, cast a spell with 2 different dice facings and so on. So he's probably on 7 and I'm on 2 glory or something.
Yeah.
But then I power up, and he doesn't choose a board with out hazard hexes.
Okay.
So I ping him, and then I am inspired, and then I just remove him from the board.
Wow. All right.
It's simple. I mean, it came down to it. It was a 13-10 win. But if I can, close in, I can do work. And he it was close. It was closer than 13-10. Sounds like. But yeah, that was more even. I didn't have crazy bad luck, but I didn't have the crazy good luck either. So. And the second game, and a thing I didn't mention about the format systems, it's the same rules for winning boards or objectives as in best of 3. So if you win the first roll off, you automatically lose the second one. So that means that he started to longboard me. I could make sure not to be longboarded, and chose the wide setup. And this game was incredibly close again, and I did the same thing. I trudge up the board. He stands back. He casts spells. I finally inspire, and I kill him. So it was 13-11. This was one of the, I specifically remember from this game, the classic Wurmspat, situation where you have to really, you talked about before the micro decisions and the macro decisions.
Yes.
And my macro decision is easy. Don't die, kill everything. But I have a lot of micro decisions, and that's. I had some luck, a lot of luck in these games, but I also had quite a lot of experience with Wurmspat.
Yeah.
And so I remember a situation where what's her name? Leona, I think, is that her name?
The one that makes everyone fly and
exactly. Yep. So she's on 1 wound. She's taken 3 wounds. She has 1 wound left. And Storm Daddy 2.0 is inspired, so he's on. He gives 2 glory if I kill him, and Sapon is standing right there, and you have to decide. Okay, either I can try to remove Sapon because he's a bigger threat, but that means I have to charge my most important fighter, and he gets a charge token. This is early in round 2, middle of the game. I could try to get Leona only has 1 wound, so I could try to kill her with a fecular spell attack, so I don't get the charge token. But I still get search or seed glory because my seed glory is so slow. I don't have much to unlock my upgrades. Or I could go for the big guy. He wasn't wounded. I don't know why I mentioned that he had 5 wounds and gave 2 glory because he wasn't wounded, so I couldn't kill him. But right. I could wound him to inspire my fighters. So it's like one of those micro decisions where, like, do you remove the threat to go for Sapon, who has 2 wounds already and can kill him? Yeah. Do I inspire, or do I go for the easy kill that doesn't change the board state and gives me the seed glory still, even though it doesn't remove the biggest threat and even though it doesn't make me inspired, which is something I really want to do. So there's a lot of those micro decisions. Of course, every warband has it in every game, but I think it's a big thing for Wurmspat to manage those. And I'm pretty sure I killed Sapon to remove the big threat and delay my inspiration a bit.
Yeah, that's a tough choice to have to make, but you talk about that turning point of, do I go for the inspire? Do I improve the board state as far as what they have access to? And I find that an interesting parallel is the Dread Pageant, and they have such a hard inspire, but every once in a while you'll be in an environment like, I actually could inspire here. Do I want to do it? And I can't, and those often feel like such a turning point in the game to make that decision.
Yeah. For Dread, I played quite a bit of Dread Pageant back in the days, and I never go for the inspire because you don't get anything from it. You don't get anything from it. Of course, of course, you get to damage 3 on what's the guy's name?
Vasilak. Yeah,
Vasilak. You get to damage 3, but he never hits.
Yeah,
so that's easy. He has 2 hammers, and you get to 4 swords, and that actually, as everyone knows, 4 swords is much less accurate than 3 swords on Snake Slash. So you don't get anything.
And there, what I've learned is that you have to be absolutely positive that the inspire is the correct choice. If you're on the fence, then it's probably the wrong choice. Yeah. But here you almost have the flip where, like, the inspire is often really good, so you have to have a very compelling reason not to go for the inspire sometimes. And
I very often go for the inspire and let people let threats live and not try to move threats, because the inspiration is what lets you go, the long way, the long game.
Well, so headsman, the Wraith Creepers and Domitans is no easy march, but you're 4-0, and you have one more game to play. Yeah,
and this is a bad one. This is against Mess, which is one of my locals, and one of my local nemesis, personal nemesis here. I played and he played Cyanide Razors with Wurmspat, and I played a practice match with him. So we knew each other's deck because we played, with the deck more or less. I changed my deck after the match with him, but we had a long discussion after our practice game, and the conclusion was this is a matchup that I can't win.
Oh, okay.
We didn't even play the longboard, and he has he's sure he's gonna have longboard one game at least, because it switches over, and we didn't play the longboard, and even in the not longboard, in the white setup, I got my ass handed to me. But I thought, and after that we talked about his board choice for the longboard, and he chose a better one, which is what he used. And we talked about my board choice for the longboard, and I chose that. So we actually even tried. We hadn't played with those board choices, but we knew what boards we would use as well.
Yeah.
But I was lucky here again, and I was lucky in the draw, because I got probably the best hand you could get. At least I got two glory end phases, that is actually scoreable round one. I got the one.
Crowd like sheep is probably good against Siren Knight.
Yeah, exactly. I got that one. That was the most important one. But I also got spread out, and I managed to get all my fighters into his zone.
Oh, wow.
And I lost Fecula, and I put up Fecula first because she could reach, so with her attack range 3 attack. So I tried to get at least one guy hit, and she got lasered two times, and then it got charged and died out. But that last charge that killed her actually meant that I could score spread out. So that means even though I've been spending my entire first round walking up, making one attack, but that didn't hit. And he's just been lasering me and killing my fighter. He made his attack. After the first round, I actually have 4 glory, and he has 3, and I'm in his territory now.
Yeah.
And then I'm not inspired. None of his are wounded, but I'm there. And then I get a ping, and I start hitting people. I get inspired, and then I don't die. And I'm lucky that early round 2, I drew up in the end of round 1, I had Inure to Hardship, the healing upgrade you mentioned. So I put that on and healed the 1 damage the Golgotch had, and then I drew up the Tough Enough, and I drew up. I had Advancing Juggernaut as well. So none of my fighters could be hit by the laser beams. Start of round 2.
Yeah,
and Golgotch was wounded, healed up the 1 wound he had. So I was ready to roll, even though I wasn't inspired.
Yeah,
and then I just killed all his fighters and actually won the unwinnable matchup. I had a very lucky hand. The first round, but it's lucky hand, but it's also a hand that you could easily throw away, because I had a non-scoring search. I had two end phases that, I could actually score, and I did score them, but they were also blockable. If the squid runs down, there's no corralled like sheep, or corralled like sheep. Is that how it's
yeah.
And if he doesn't kill Fecula, or if he moves up and stands together himself, spread out, is blocked as well. And I don't have any kill. I don't have any chance of getting kills the first round. So I don't have, I have to go through a third of the game without no upgrades, without no attacks, or 1 attack that didn't hit. So it's a tough hand to keep, but it's also, probably the best hand that I could have.
Sure. And that's a matter of, experience with the warband and some experience with the deck. Like you mentioned just the 4 games, but some reps there, and then some thinking about it. And the easy thing is often to do like, well, this hand is bad, so I'll mulligan it. But sometimes you look and say, this hand is bad, but not as bad as what I'm likely to get. So sometimes a bad hand, this gives me a 35% chance to win, or, nobody's making calculations that precise.
No,
but the point being, like, that this is as good as I'm going to get, and so this is what I'm going to have to go with.
Yeah. So that was definitely one thing, and I think I also made a nice deployment, because the best longboard decisions I talked you through with my opponent before in our practice game is actually a board that has hazard hexes, which I don't want against another Wurmspat, but it lets me deploy closer to him than the
Right.
other.
If you're going to clear out from him anyway, then you're all right.
Yeah. So he might have it in his first hand, and but if I get the first activation, then I can clear out. But also meant that I had to choose. So not only the board choice, which is like a risk, but worth it, and also the deployment, because often you would deploy a Golgotch in the front because he is, he doesn't have the range, so he has to go, get closest to the enemy. But I actually deployed him back in order to deploy Fekla in the front. So that meant that Fekla was also the, what do you call it, like the bait. And she died round one. She was and she unlocked as she gave him a glory early in the game, but it meant that that I had the two fighters that are best at going the distance when they inspire, because the defense is better. So that was also I guess experience coming through.
Yeah, understanding what trade you could make and still come out on top here.
Yeah, but definitely the hand was the best of a bad deal. But it was good. Yeah.
So there's the first half of that match.
Yeah, and that means actually here that I won. I won already, which is because I was.
Oh, what a good feeling!
Yeah, but it was also kind of weird that it didn't go to go down to the wire for the last game, because I was the only one who hadn't thrown a game so far. So so Mass, my opponent, he hadn't lost a match, but he had one draw before. So that meant that of course. So when I won this game, his best result would be 3 wins and 2 draws, and my result would be 4 wins and 1 draw.
Yeah.
So of course they're still fighting for second place. And as we might come back to in a minute, there was a big prize for second place. I haven't told you this, but you will hear about it in a minute. So I mean, it was still something. The second match was still. We played as well as we could. But the top placing was there. First place was there for me already. So we played again, and this time I set the whiteboard up, and this is when we thought, okay, I have a chance. Beforehand, before we played, this was where I would have think I'd had a chance, and I just won over him. So I think, okay, this is going to be easy now, right? I mean, I don't even have to slog up the game. And then it totally flips on its head. And he just demolishes me. And I don't, in the end, we had some of those tough enough shenanigans where I think he attacked Fekla 3 times with a damage 2 attack, and she didn't take any damage. Because she reduced the damage down to 1, and then tough enough upgrade lets her ignore it. So we had some memorable, why won't you die moments. But in the end, he just, I think we flipped the scores. I think the first was 13-7 and then 13-7. So it actually was a true draw. The final game.
Wow.
One win and each and 20 total glory scored across 2 games.
Amazing.
So I did it, and I didn't expect to at all after my practice games, to be honest. So that was a great event, and some really great opponents.
Well, there we are. And unless we made it clear at the start, we should mention that earned you a slot for Worlds. Is that something that you're going to take up?
So that was the second place, big win I talked about. I was prepared to, I told him already after the first game, Mess, that I'm not going to Worlds, sadly. First of all, I don't want to fly as much. I traveled a lot when I was a bit younger, and I feel like for climate reasons I shouldn't fly. And second, which is even more of a good reason, my girlfriend is pregnant, and I'm getting my second kid in October. So I going to Atlanta to play Toy Soldiers. A couple of weeks after that is a tough sell.
Yeah.
So So I'm not going, sadly.
It sounds like you'll just have to convince somebody else to run Wurmspat for you, and you can win vicariously through them. So.
I will be in their earpiece, giving all the advice I can. No, so I'm not going, and Mess, who placed second after drawing with me in the final, is I think thinking about it. He has to fit it in with life. So it's still up in the air if he's going or not, but he has the chance at least, and he's a really good player. So if he goes, you might have to beat him up on your way over there.
Well, I will have Skylar update his binder of expected opponents then, since he is our representative who has earned a slot.
Fantastic.
So you got to the end of these 5. Obviously, it's when you get to the end and you have come out on top, it's hard to say that I would have changed this or that, because you got the best possible result. But did you look back and say, this card or that card, I really wish I might have considered something different?
Yeah.
And if so, what would that be?
First card is Seeping Rod, which is a Wurmspat faction card. And basically says that if your fighter is holding an objective and is a target of an attack action and is not driven back and don't die, then it's a search. And I never scored it because in the early game you have 1 block. So even if you actually crit out the attack, they might still push you back if they got a crit as well. And also, I mentioned puncturing ice charge, which influences your own positioning. That doesn't. If you haven't seen that card, you don't want to stay too close to objectives. So it's that kind of anti-synergy there.
This is a fair point.
I've wanted to try Seeping, or I had tried it before. I wanted to play Seeping Rod as like a lag of better alternatives. I think I would run the Wurmspat faction search, which is called, let me see, I always forget it, Blessed Endurance, which says that if you survive an attack with damage 3 or more, a successful attack, that is, then you score a search. And normally I don't like it because a lot of warbands don't have damage 3, and they won't get it in Nemesis. But now they might, because Hungering Parasite gives you +1 damage.
Yes, sure.
And quite a lot of warbands actually still do have damage 3. Maybe they have it from their previous. So like in all my matchup, I'm not sure I would have had it on hand, but in all my matchups, I fought against the damage 3 fighters. So I'd much rather have Blessed Endurance than Seeping Rod. Not Seeping Rod, sorry. Yes, Seeping Rod it's called, sorry. So that was one. I think that I would change. Maybe there's a chance that we talked about the domain cards, like the trigger off of domains. So like an avalanche is the card that removes a charge token. When a domain is discarded, I might change that out for the faction card Stolid Bulk, which says you cannot be driven back. So those are probably the two I wanted to change up.
Well, that's solid. I think that's a great recap. Is there anything about the event that you'd like to share that we haven't had a chance to talk about?
I mean, it was well run, long, ample time, in my opinion, in the rounds, and just a crazy amount of surprise support. Like these two guys, my local guys, have just they got the golden ticket, and they got a big, heavy, not so pretty trophy for me for the first thing. But they got they had prizes for the top 4, and you got paints, and you got tokens, and you got the special fighter cards. They had extra special dice for the one who plays last, because he obviously needed new dice.
Needed fresh dice.
Yeah, exactly. They had best painted, got a huge painting set. Best most sporting opponent, which was Matt from Critical Focus channel. He won a Wintermore or Death Gorge box. They had a random draw for whoever had paid their tickets or bought the tickets well in advance. So it's like 20 of the 26 players could draw, and there was they put out 5 warbands. Just you get your withdraw your name out of a hat, and you get a warband. They had from scrounge up from their own pile back home. One of the organizers had made 20 handmade dice trays, and stamped with the Copenhagen Clash and in real leather. And he said, okay, for the first round, each and every time anyone rolls a successful crit, defense or attack, just scream, "I got a crit!" and you get a dice tray for free. Only one per person. So in the first round, people were like crit, and everyone had dice trays.
Wow.
So the prize board was just stacked, and these guys really showered everyone with prizes and love. That was really good.
Yeah, really rewarded the attendance. That's great to hear. Well, I appreciate you sharing all that. That sounded like an incredible event. Great turnout, and it was really. I know that I am joined by many listeners when I say there's a soft spot in my heart for seeing the overlooked warbands find some success somewhere. So it's a great event, but also a great story to get to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah. I think that will do it for us. For folks, if folks wanted to chat with you, what was the best way they could do that?
I'm on the Discords, the 3 main ones that I know of, at least. The Vassal one, the Path to Glory one, and the obviously the What the Hex one. And my name is just my real name. So just add me there.
Okay.
I'll be happy to talk Wurmspat shop.
Yeah, I have many messages to prove such a thing. For us, the Discord is actually the best place for us as well. Most of us will keep WTH in our handle if you want to reach out. We do have our own Discord, and there's always a link in our show notes to join into that. We have Patreon up if you want to check in on that to support the show. You can check out the rest of the content on the Mortal Realms Network. That's at themortalrealms.com. There's 4 different shows there. There's Path to Story. There's the Story Phase, or the Mortal Realms, as it's kind of headlined. And of course, there's Dogs of Warcry. All those excited about the new AOS edition coming out and what that means for their respective games. Coming up next, I'm a little ways out from our episode. I guess it would be 144 now. Is that a gross? I guess I should have delayed you one more. It would have been great to have the gross episode be Wurmspat, but such things have fled us. We'll be talking that. Who knows? We may have a warband to talk about by the time that it feels like we're due. But
preferably a new Nurgle warband.
Yeah, that'd be great. I that feels very due, actually. I would actually love to see some Nurglings in Underworlds. Maybe multiples to a base or something. I think that would be delightful. Well, I know you've listened to us before, so I know you know what's coming next, and that would be the flavor text quiz. Are you ready for the flavor text quiz?
I am, but I'm not good at it.
All right. Okay, so as usual, we'll give you who the quote is attributed to, and then you'll go. And if you stall, then we'll give you a hint or two if you need it here. The one hint I'll give you at the start is this is a card from your deck.
Yeah.
So Yeah, we'll go with this. This is a quote that we attribute to Sepsimus. The rasp of blades through flesh, the crunch of rotting bone underfoot. Ah, yes, today is a good day. Now come onward, Sepsimus.
Goddamn. Is that Faithful Reward?
It is not. I'll give you a hint. It's an upgrade.
It's an upgrade. That must be Unstoppable Threat.
That's it. You got it.
Yes.
I almost threw, because I went through the whole Wurmspat for which of those universal cards have there on there, but it's not included in your deck for good reason, because it's one of the less good cards in there. But Engulfing Swallow actually has Fecula on it.
Oh yeah, I actually really wanted to fit that in there because
for theme. Yeah.
No, it's unconditional. It's random, but it's not it's an unconditional ping. If I draw it in first hand, I can throw it at them and then see if it sticks.
And it doesn't. They don't have to be in any particular spot. That's fair. All right. I do have recommended listening. This one is from Mud Honey, and that one is "Touch Me, I'm Sick." For what the heck, I've been Davey,
and I've been Anas.
It's actually only happened once that we actually recorded we thought we were recording for about 20 minutes and then realized we had to start again. So for 143 episodes now, I guess that's not too bad. But so